'cause I'm a wheel-born baby. Always burn down the road. Yeah, I'm a wheel-born baby. Always burning down the road. I'm a wheel-born baby. This life never gets old. Come on, wheel burners, yeah, burn with me. Come on, wheel burners, yeah, burn with me. Oh, take a ride now on Wheelburner Express. Yeah, Wheelburner Express, baby.
Go on. We got sound? Someone give me a 5x5. We good on sound? I've got, it's 31 degrees here, so I've got the truck running. I just got in the truck about 25 minutes ago and got all my shit unpacked. So I've had to run the truck. It's been sitting here all weekend. It's freaking hot in here. So I've got it cooling down because everything in here, like the plastic, the dash, everything's friggin' hot. So what's going on, Craig Rett? Good to see you. Donnie, good to see you. Good day. Flatbed, how's it going? Audio's good. Thanks, Flatbed. So I just, as well as a lot of you know, from the last live driving up, I just spent the weekend up with Dar's mom and dad, and I can't eat another thing. Hey, Patrick, good to see you, my friend. Mike, good to see you. I can't eat another thing. My mother-in-law, literally, like every time my mouth was open, she stuffed something in it. You know, just it was like, oh my God. So I'm full of steak and eggs and oh Christ, everything else under the sun that I candy. My mother-in-law is one of those that she leaves candy dishes all over the main floor for me. Well, for everybody, but she knows when I'm coming because I'll clean them out. I just clean them right out. So it was a really, really good weekend. I got to spend some good quality time with my mother and father-in-law, especially my father-in-law. It was very important to me that I was able to spend that time with him and give my mom-in-law, I call her my mom, but I give my mom a chance to get out of the house and go do some things and take care of some things and, you know, get a bit of a break. So somebody's been, you know, when somebody's been messing with your bloody seat and it's like, oh, come on. Can Dar have her parents adopt you? No, they've adopted me. Let me tell you, Sterling, I do very, very, very well by Dar's mom and dad. Very well. Let me tell you, I'm not kidding. They even, like, she sent me home with care package. So I've got, not only did I eat like a king while I was there, but she sent me home with like a homemade loaf of bread because she makes her own bread. So I've got a homemade loaf of bread here. For you Americans, you're going to lose your shit here. Okay? You guys are about to lose your shit right here because I've got something here that you guys want and I got it right here. And I got a whole tray of them. And you're asking, Brian, what do you have? Okay? What do you have? Well, what Brian has that the Americans don't have, but they love when they can get their hands on them: homemade butter tarts. That there is about 7 million calories worth of deliciousness. Absolutely awesome. And I have not eaten any yet. I just took the cellophane wrapper off it, and they're sitting on the passenger seat. Believe it or not, I haven't touched them. So I got about a dozen. I got about a dozen here, and they're supposed to last me all week. But like you guys, you know, you and I both know that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I'll be lucky if these make it till tomorrow morning. So we got the butter tarts. And then I left there this morning. Like I said, it was good for the soul to see them and to hang out with them and spend, like I said, spend some time with my father-in-law. Some one-on-one time because he is a hero of mine in life. And then on the way back up to the yard here, that's where I'm at now. Obviously, I'm in the truck. I stopped in Kingston and took my daughter and her wife Rye out for lunch. So I haven't seen them in about 5 or 6 weeks either, 5 weeks at least. So I got to spend some time with one of my kids and her wife, and we went out to Montana's for lunch and just got to catch up. And I got all excited listening to what's been going on in their life, and because just before Dar and I moved to Alberta, they were living with us. So it was really good to see what's going on in their lives and whatnot like that. So, and I'll be honest with you, it was a little emotional. It was a little emotional, and I know she doesn't. My daughter doesn't watch this, but I dropped her. I dropped the two of them off, and I was doing okay. Put it in reverse. Okay, that's not a tear. I'm sweating. I was a little bit emotional. It was harder this time to say goodbye and let them go than it was like 5 weeks ago. It really was. So I did. And then I had to drive from Kingston up to the yard here, and I had time to reflect, and it was a good drive. I've had a really, really good weekend. Be honest with you, it really has. I've been spoiled. I've eaten. I've been fed. I've been watered. I got to see my kids. I got to one of my kids and her wife, and I'm a happy man. I truly am. I'm content. I'm a happy man. So, and it's great to see you guys. We got something going a little differently tonight, so I'm gonna go real quick into the chat here and just do a bunch of hellos, and then we're gonna kick off something because I was asked a long time ago to do this, and I declined. And it was talk about my recovery, because in this industry, in the trucking industry, there is a drug problem, there is an alcohol problem, there are drivers, men and women, that suffer with drug and alcohol addiction, and I wasn't maybe necessarily ready to open. Like, I've told you guys at times, like, you all know that I'm clean and I'm sober, and that I was a drug addict and an alcoholic and everything like that. And I've been clean since March 21st of 1993. That's how long I've been drug and alcohol free. And that's approximately 31 years. But what happened, right? It's what happened. How did I finally bottom out and make that decision and And that is what I've never shared with anybody. Now, there are a few people here on the private side of YouTube, on the private side of my life, that I have shared some of that with. Sterling is in there. There's a couple other people that are in there, and there's a couple people. One of them who's usually in here, but he's not here right now. He was there with me while I was doing it, so he knows who I was and where I was and the type of man and whatnot and everything like that. But I wasn't ready And I guess I would say I thought I was talking to Sterling last night, and I thought it was about 6 or 7, but it was actually more than that. It was about a year ago. Somebody asked me to do this. And you know what? It's. I was thinking of doing it on my. I was thinking of doing it on my own channel, and I am doing it now on my own channel. But this is being sponsored by Sterling's Church of Wheel. And I know I fucked up the title. I got Wheel of Church. Sorry, you know me. I got to put my own twist on it. Forgive me, Sterling. I screwed that up on you. But this is probably. I don't know why you want to say this. This is, there's. Sterling has reached out to 4 or 5 people. He reached out to Shannon Thomas, and she did one. Buck Brown did, or she did one on forgiveness. Buck Brown did one on gratitude. Steve did one on spiritual. Sorry, I can't remember. And then he came to me and asked me to do this, and the title on this is Recovery and Reinvention. And so you know what? That's kind of what we're going to do a little bit of tonight. And I'm not going to go into any of the details, because I want you to know there's no glory in anything that I've ever done, right? Anything that I've ever done in my entire life, up until my recovery and parts of my recovery and parts of my life today, there's nothing glorious, about being, in that type of life and living that way and being that type of man. And so I'm not gonna give you details, but I will talk about it. And basically it's broken down when you're in recovery. It's broken down because we have speakers. When you're in recovery, you go to NA meetings or AA meetings and everything. And certain day of open meetings and closed meetings. Open meetings is where, everybody gets together and they have a speaker get up and they tell their story. And that's kind of what we're doing here. And basically it's broken down to who I was, what happened to me, and who I am today. And that's what I'm gonna give you guys. If you want. And that's pretty much, I think, what Sterling's asking of me. And again, we're not going to go into a lot of detail. So let me get this fucker lit. Let me get a pepper open here. I'm going to look at those, and then we'll just kind of ease into this. All right. But I want to say hello, Mr. Bees. Thank you for being here. You know what, Mr. Bees, keep doing what you're doing. Fuck them all, brother. That's all I'm going to say. You know me, Mr. Beast. We have been on the phone. We've had some good talks. Fuck them all. You do you. Let the cards fall where they may. You just keep doing what you're doing. I love what you're doing. So do a few other fucking people out here. So you just keep nailing that, bro. Don, good to see you, man. Thanks. Thanks for being here. I was addicted to sugar and carbs and beat it for 2 years now. It's an addiction. An addiction is an addiction. You can be addicted to cocaine or drugs, say cocaine. You can be addicted to sugar. You can be addicted to alcohol. You can be addicted to sex. You can be addicted to anything that you do in excess can be considered an addiction. So, it doesn't matter whether it's carbs and sugar or whether it's you're jamming needles in your arms or in your eyeballs. It's an addiction. Jerry 522, that grandfather sounds bad. No, brother, I'm not mad. Are you crazy? I've had one of the best weekends I've had in a long, long time. I needed this weekend, and I've never been so relaxed and so chill and so grateful as I am right now. So good to see you, Johnny Guard Dog. And you know what, guys? I just want to thank you for being and hanging here. I do appreciate it. I really do. Sterling's throwing $20. The Church of Wheel is a gathering of friends who all share a wheeled life. Yeah. Like-minded nomads, experts, and gurus. We require a sense of humor and a kind ear. You got it, man. You got it. So, anyway, you know what? I would like to just go through the chat and everything like that, but I don't want to make this an all-night endeavor. I'd like to try to keep this at probably about no more than, say, from now, about an hour. Let's say when the stogie's done, I'd like to be wrapping this up. So I don't want to make it much longer than that. So 690, great to see you, man. How are you? Chris, good to see you. My Adventures, Love that guy's channel. Love what Chris is doing. Excellent. Is Tolga here? Tolga is here. Man, good to see you. Ryan, again, Mike Genesis, good to see you, man. Thanks for hanging. Salty Badger. I replaced in recovery. I replaced my addiction with motorcycles, and now my wife says I need intervention for that. Yeah, well, you know what? I can certainly understand that. I can quite possibly relate to that. Because once, tattoos and motorcycles, once you get the first one, there's no limit, right? They always say, one is too much and 100's never enough, right? There you go. Mike, I'm doing well. I'm glad you're here. Thanks. So Dar's here. She'll keep me on the straight and narrow. So for the time being, if you guys don't mind, feel free to chat your asses off. But I'm really not going to be paying much attention to the chat. I'm just going to give you a quick. I'm just going to give you a quick one here. This is just going to be a quickie. I figure if I'm going to bare my soul, I'm going to use the hard stuff tonight, eh? We're going all out. We're going with the fully leaded Dr. Pepper tonight. None of that unleaded stuff. Can't afford the drugs anymore, brother. I hear ya. The only ICAL. Hello, bro. What's going on, brother? Buck Brown, it's great to see you. It is. I can't wait to see you in November, man. Looking forward to that. Alora, yeah. Little granddaughter came in and said, "Hi, Nana," and she wanted to climb up on my bed with me. Oh, so now I've got my granddaughter watching me. That's great. She may never talk to me again. Indeed, lead is what I do best. Or hauling, attaboy. Anyway, let's just kind of ease into this. I'm 54 years old. I'm almost tempted to sit here and go, "Hi, I'm Brian, and I'm an alcoholic." Anybody that's ever been to an AA meeting or seen them on TV or an NA meeting, that's how they start it, right? It's like, "Hi, I'm Brian, I'm an addict," or "I'm Brian, and I'm an alcoholic," and then everybody yells, "Hi, Brian," and you think it's kind of goofy, but it's actually kind of cool. So, I'm 54 years old. I was born in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I was born in Etobicoke. I say Toronto, but back then it was Etobicoke, but it's still Toronto. I will tell you, I was born to two of the most fully functioning, loving, caring at the time alcoholic parents. Alcoholism and drug addiction, it does run through the family. It does. If you've got an alcoholic mother, an alcoholic father, alcoholic grandparents, or drug addicted, whatever, it does run in the family. You are at a higher risk. So it's kind of funny that way, that I had two fully functioning alcoholic parents. One of them was walking around at all times with a weapon on him. My dad was a Metro Toronto cop. He's long retired now, so I can say that. It's not like anything's going to happen. And my mom, for the most part, was a stay-at-home mom. She raised my younger brother and I. But the way that they lived, and the way that they loved, and the way that they showed that love, and the way that they operated as parents, I knew from a very young age was much different than my friends, right? So I'm not going to sit here and tell you how, about when I was a baby. Nobody gives a shit about that. But from a very, very, very young age, I would probably say, 6, 7, 8, into that area. When, that's when you basically, your memory really starts. I don't care who you are. You don't sit there and go, "I remember when I was 3 years old." I don't remember 3 minutes ago. Never mind when I was 3 years old. But I can go back as far as, say, like 6, 7, 8, 9, into those areas, or when my memories first. But I can always remember back then having a very loud, very brash, a very arrogant, hardcore father drunk a lot. When he wasn't on duty and he wasn't working, he was in the bottom of a bottle of rye, and he was mixing that, usually mixing that with Molson Golden. Anybody that knows Canada knows what Molson Golden is. It is probably one level up from donkey piss. Absolutely horrible stuff. My mom was a daily drinker, wine drinker, and that was my entire life, up until my teens. But I remember as a kid that I was always, not like you would feel appreciated, but I was always made to feel that I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good looking enough. I wasn't, if I was, I played competitive sports, and I was always rep. I was always really good. And, I could, for example, we were in the Little League, we played Little League baseball, but we were always in the rep, and we were in the Ontario finals. And I was pitching a no-hitter, and I ended up pitching a one-hitter, and I went to my father for, look what I did, Dad. And I got back from my father, well, one guy got a hit. I pitched a no-hitter, but I still got from him, well, one guy got a hit. It was just never good enough. Like I said, I was never good enough in my dad's eyes, or in my mom's eyes, or in a lot of people's eyes. And as I grew up with that, that would weigh on me as a child. It would weigh on me into my early teens. I would close in on myself as a protection. I would not let you see who I was, what I was thinking, where I was going. And what I started doing at a very young age, it was not uncommon in our house, that when, the old man was downstairs at the bar drinking, there was a full bar in our house, and he was downstairs drinking. If you went and got the old man a beer, it'd be, here, boy, have a sip of that. Before, you'd give him the beer and you'd have a sip of that. Well, if he's going to drink 12 of those things and you're 10 or 11 or however old you are, you got a nice buzz going. So as early as before my teen years, myself, my brother, we were introduced to alcohol. It flowed freely in our house, and there was no limit to what we could do with it. I'm not going to say that they told us it was okay to just drink. It wasn't. I couldn't just walk in after school, walk down to the bar, grab a bottle of bourbon, open it, and start drinking it. You couldn't do that. But if the old man was sitting at the bar and you wanted to have a beer, he'd pour you half a glass of beer. There you go, boy. Sit down there and have a glass of beer. It wasn't okay to pull out a cigarette and sit down with your old man and have a cigarette when you're 11. That was going a little too far. I tried it, but it didn't work out so well. But that's how my father and I related. It was through alcohol. Okay, when the alcohol was flowing, he would be in an okay mood. When the alcohol would stop, he would be mean, nasty, rotten, and it wasn't just to me; it would be to my father and to my brother and other people around him. Remember, this is a policeman. He sees things in life that the average person doesn't see, that you can't unsee, that we wish we could see. He's been places. He's had to deal with situations that nobody should have to deal with. And so he's got all of that, and he's got his own demons, and that's why he's pouring whiskey and bourbon and everything else down his throat. But that's his story. We're not going to go there. But my story is, because of the way I was raised, I couldn't be good enough for anybody. So that means I couldn't be good enough for myself. My self-esteem as a child was very low. My self-worth as a child was very low. It wasn't until I got into my early teens that I started to discover that, if I took, a little toke of this and I mixed it with a glass of that, I could have a little bit of courage. And that's what I started with, right? All I was looking for was a little bit of courage to ease that little thing inside of me, to relax that, I guess today it would be considered something like anxiety, but it really wasn't. But to ease that inside of me, that mix of feelings and emotions that were running through me, a little drink of something and a little puff of something, that could ease that, And then, as I get older, and like I said, I'm not going to draw it all out, but I'm going to quickly go through the teen years. But as I got older in the teen years, that became a little bit more and a little bit more, because the requirement was a little bit more and a little bit more, because it wouldn't work, right? It stopped working. This level here would work for a while, but then it stopped working. So then you'd have to a little up to here, and then this one would work for a little bit more, and then you'd have to move it up to here, until you were going, oh wow, until somebody comes along and goes, hey, well, if you take some of this and you put it on a fucking coffee table, and you take out your dollar bill, back then when we had them, and you cram this shit up your fucking nose, hey, guess what? It'll make you, alert. It's going to wake you up. You'll be sharp as a tack. And it'll deal with all of those. You will become everything that you want to be. And that's what that was the key that I was looking for. I was looking for that magic elixir that would make me everything that I wanted to be, that I wasn't. You follow me? All the things I wanted to be. I wanted to be smart enough. I wanted to be good enough. I wanted to be good looking enough. I just wanted to be enough. And I didn't feel that. But you start mixing, a little bit of white powder and whiskey, woo, up here, all of a sudden I could be all of those things, and then my voice got louder. My arrogance got louder. My confidence went up. But it's a false confidence. It's not a real confidence. It's not real. It's induced. And as with anything that's induced, it eventually goes away. It stops. So what do? You got to take more, right? You got to take more. And the more that you take, next thing you know, the people that I used to sit around with as a teenager, and now I'm talking, 15, 16, those people that I used to hang out with and this and that, and they were always a little bit older than me as well. I was always in a crowd that was a few years older than me. Now, those people, I had no use for them anymore, because I found these new people, right, that were, they had this new elixir to life that would give me everything that I wanted in life. And so then they became the new crowd. And it didn't matter what side of the tracks they came from. They had what I wanted. And as long as you're willing to pay the price to get what you want, it doesn't matter where it comes from, who's giving it to you. And then eventually what they're going to want in return. And, I'll just very quickly and briefly about that. Because I got involved with some of the not so nicer type of people in life. And I'm not going to say, some people here know, but I'm not going to say here, but they weren't the best of people. They still today are not the best of people. And I got involved with that, and I was brought into that for specific reasons. A couple of specific reasons. I could do things logistically. I had a really good mind. I could figure things out in my head that back then they needed a calculator, a slide rule, and a pencil to figure out. But I could figure it out and go, hey, okay, we're going to do this, and if you do this and do this, your product will be here at this time, and nothing will happen. Like that, okay? And they saw that. It was recognized by an older member who was an older brother of a friend of mine. And so I already knew the guy, and they knew who I was, and they went, well, wait a minute, let's grab this kid, because he's good at a couple of things, and he can do that, right? I was sharp enough that like I could do that in my head, and I could do certain things, and I was big. When I was 17 years old, I was 6'2". I was 6'2", like I am today. I haven't shrunk any, and I was a solid 200 pounds. And that was at 17 years old. I was solid, but I was solid, and I had a really good ability. I could throw. I could throw. I was fearless. Some of that again was induced, right? But I was fearless. with the way that I thought, and sometimes I still think that way today. I just don't have the elixir of life. But with the way that I was, the way that I thought, and the way that I acted, and the way that I held my demeanor, and the way that I walked through life from the time I was 17, 18, and 19 with these people, I was told right up front, I was told by a couple of the older members that, you know what, you are deadly. You are absolute, Brian, you are absolutely dangerous. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, man, you should be kept, you're one of those types of people that should be kept behind in a box behind a glass with a little hammer hanging there and a sign on it saying, in time of war, break the glass, but keep him in that box until that time. Because with idle hands, when I was idle, I was a wreck. I was a mess. And in times of war, I was very calm, cool, collected. I kept my head and I kept my wits about me, and that part of life appreciated that. So that was that edge of life that I was walking at that time. By the time I turned 20, I was fully enveloped. I had a full-blown drug habit. I had a full-blown alcohol problem. I was not in control of my own emotions. I was not in control of myself. It was like the blind leading the blind. I was a wreck. And the only reason a lot of people kept me around is because they had a purpose for me. But if they didn't, they'd have had no use for me. None. And rightly so, because I was out to hurt people. I wasn't a nice guy. My way of thinking was, I'm going to hurt you before you can hurt me, and I will not let you hurt me. So for me, it was lash out first, lash out hard, and lash out, last. Make sure that nobody can fucking get to you, and make sure that you're bulletproof at all times. That makes for a very mean, nasty person. And then if you add a little bit of arrogance in there and a little bit of ignorance in there, you got a monster. And that is what I had become. Right up until I was 23. I was nothing but a monster. I had no use or no respect for women, the law, weaker men, weaker people. If I saw weakness, I saw you as weakness. If I saw a man cry, I would smack him off his fucking bar stool. If I saw, I would have no use for that. Weakness was, in my eyes, weakness was horrible. It was just something that I couldn't deal with weakness. I couldn't deal with weakness in other people, because if I was to acknowledge somebody else's weakness, I would have to acknowledge my own. And I was not ever going to go there. That was not going to fucking happen ever in my life. Boy, was I fucking wrong. Did I have to wake that up? So I'm just going to go real quick. Next, we're not going to talk about anything. You know where I was. Basically, at 23 years old, I was a raging alcoholic, a raging drug addict, and there was nothing in here but a raging monster. And that's all it was. Out to hurt people and everybody and anything. I did not care. Life did not have meaning to me. It really, truly didn't. Okay? At 21, my first, and while I was in the middle of all this, at 21, my first daughter was born. I'd married a woman. Let's face it, I took her hostage. I did. I married this girl and knocked her up and blah blah blah. And we're not going to talk. It's no big deal. But now I'd started having kids. Now I've started breeding. So my daughter was born, and that was when I was 21. By the time I turned 23, I am a wreck. I am a riot. I am hell on wheels. I've got warrants. I've got other problems, legal problems. I've got drug issue. I got a whole lot. I'm in over my head and I'm drowning. And at that moment, I come in off the road. I parked. I come in the door. And my wife at the time says, you need to call such and such this person. Something has happened to a friend of yours. So I made the phone call, and I listened on the other end to what was being said to me on the other end of the phone. I hung up the phone. I looked at my wife and I said, I'll be back in a bit. And I fucked off. I was gone. Okay. Jumped on my bike and I was gone. And I was gone for 4 days. And that was in March of 1993. What had happened is a very dear friend of mine who wasn't in that life, was never in that life, nowhere near that life. His family knew my family. I knew him as little boys. We grew up, and I knew, like, we were friends. And to the day that he died, to the day that he was the kindest kid in the world, gentlest heart, sweetest singing voice, just an incredible person. He was that kid that, at the end, if a girl was, we were all partying or something, and a girl had to go home and she had to walk home, Wayne would take his coat, put his coat, and he'd walk her home and then come back to the party, right? Like, he was that kid. Anyway, he was down in Mexico, and he'd got juiced up pretty good. Down in Mexico, you do what you do while you're down there, and he got juiced up pretty good. And for the life of me, I don't know why, because it wasn't his nature, but I guess there was a woman involved, and he was showing off, and he decided to do a little a balcony climbing. He was going to be Spider-Man. And he started on, I think they couldn't determine where he started, but he started somewhere around the 4th or the 5th floor, and he started climbing balconies on the outside, and he got up to about the 11th floor, and he lost it. And he head first off, and he was dead on impact down in Mexico. And that's what the phone call was. It was that Wayne had died, and now of course I didn't know those details at that time, but Wayne had died. The family is here, and I was very close to the family, so I had gone to be with the family. I left my family and went to be with that family. That's where my priorities were. Wrong priorities. I left my family and went to that family. 3 days. I couldn't kill myself. 3 days I stuck every substance that I could get my hands on into me. It didn't matter what it was. I had also developed, I'd also, by this point here, I was not only stuffing it up my nose, but I was smoking crack. So I was piping it as well. And it didn't matter what I was cramming into my system. It didn't matter if it was bourbon and Coke or crack or whatever. 4 days I went on the most biggest self-destructive fucking tirade, and I could not kill myself. I could not die. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to self-destruct, and I couldn't do it. I got into 2 fights. Got one. I went 50%. I won one, took an ass whooping on the other one. Although the one I lost, it was close. The bottom fell out for me when, after I couldn't do anything and I couldn't inject, or nothing. The bottom for me fell out when eventually, after 4 days, on the 5th day, I went home, and there was my wife sitting on the end of the couch, if you can picture this, okay? Sitting on the end of her couch in her nightgown, and I don't think she changed her nightgown for a couple of days, with a baby on her lap, because my oldest daughter was just a babe. She was born in December, and this is March. No, actually, no. She was about a year. But a baby sitting on her lap and on her right knee, and she had the phone. Remember the rotary phones? She had the other phone on her knee, her left knee, and she was sitting there waiting for me to call. And that's what she'd been sitting there for hours. She'd get up, change the baby, whatever, put the baby down and sit there, and she was waiting because she didn't know, but she was already getting reports from other people that Brian was trying to kill himself. He was trying to fucking drink and inject and smoke and snort and blah 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 blah. And I walked in the door, and it wasn't the violence that did it for me. It was, it was a bit of the combination that Wayne had died and the guilt that I was feeling. That was part of my bottoming. But it was walking in the door and seeing her in that state. And I looked down at her as I walked in the door, and she had that look of disgust in her eyes. I can guarantee you, there's people in this chat, 34 of you's in here. I guarantee you, somebody in here knows what I'm talking about. When somebody looks at you with such disgust, that tore my heart out. Not because I loved her, I didn't. But it was that look of, what have you fucking done to yourself? What have you done to yourself? That look of absolute fucking disgust. And that was the bottom for me. That was the bottom. I went down the hall, went into the bedroom, closed the bedroom, went for a bottle, couldn't get it into me, right? For some reason, I took a couple of mouthfuls and up it came. It wouldn't go into me. I had a cigarette lit. I almost lit the bed on fire with the cigarette. I don't know how that happened, but and the only thing I could think of at that time was to call my father. My father at that time had gone into recovery by that time. My father was already 4 or 5 years sober. He was dealing with alcoholism. And I called my dad, and I was crying. I had tears in my eyes, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I want to die here. I can't do this. I can't live like this. I'm a raging monster, and all I want to do is fucking hurt and kill people and run through life that way, and I can't do this anymore. I need help. And my father, as much as I don't like him today and I don't speak to him today, back then, he did the right thing. God bless him. He actually said to me, he said, son, you're my son. I love you, but you're too close to me. I can't help you. But this gentleman will. And he gave me a phone number. And that's all it took, was a phone number. I wrote down the phone number, found a pencil, wrote down the phone number, hung up from my father, and I called him. And his name was Jack. Jack McGee. Old man Jack, everyone called him. Old newspaper man. Tough as nails. About this fucking tall. But tough as fucking nails. You think I swear? Every second syllable out of his mouth was fuck. Old newspaper man, but tough as nails. But he'd been sober and clean for over 20 years at that point. So I called him. And I said, Jack, my name is Brian. I need help. Da-da-da-da-da. I don't want to die. I think I've got enough to live for, and I don't want to die. I need some help. And very calmly, hold on a second here. Very calmly, Jack said to me, well, I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die either. This man doesn't know me. But he says, I don't want you to die either. He says, I'll tell you what, son. He says, you go to bed. He says, do you have to go to work tomorrow? I said, nope. He said, okay. I'm going to pick you up at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And we're going to go for coffee, and we're going to have a talk. And here's the sickness, okay? Here I am asking this man to save my life and help me. And when he says, yes, I will help you, and I will save your life. And he says, I'm going to pick you up at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The first thing I can think about is, man, I'm pretty fucking stoned and wasted. Oh, 8 o'clock's too early. Can we make it like noon? How bad do you want it? Right? And that's what he said to me. He says, no. He says, how bad do you want this? I'll pick you up at 8 o'clock. He says, give me your address. I will be outside of your house at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And he said, if you're out there at 8 o'clock in the morning, great. If you're not, then it's your choice, your decision. You live with it. Motherfucker, wasn't I out there at 8 o'clock the next morning? And that was March 21st of 1993. And that was my entrance into recovery. Okay, that was my entrance into recovery. I had become a monster. I had become an absolute asshole. And now I had walked through the door of recovery. And the first step of that was asking for help, admitting that I had the problem and asking for help. I had already admitted I had a problem. I knew it. I knew the gig was up. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't the cops on my heels or the warrants or all that shit. It was what was going on in here and the lack of what was going on in here. The gig was up and I fucking knew it. I had to stop or I was going to die. There was two ways for me to go. And I already knew this. I knew that if I did not stop, I was going to live one of two ways. I was going to live incarcerated for the rest of my life. I would end up in prison. I don't mean go to jail. I mean, I would end up in prison, incarcerated the rest of my life, because that's the path I was walking down, or I would be dead. One or the other. There's no gray area there. There's no gray. It was black or white. You're going to either end up in prison or you're going to end up dead. Which way do you want to go? Which way do you want to go? Or option number 3 that Jack's offering me, let's live. Let's live. The gig was up and I knew it. And Jack was there. So what did Jack do? Jack called me names. He insulted me. He knew that I could smoke him, like absolutely fucking smoke him and end his life in under 5 seconds. He had no fear of me. None. One of the few people in my life that when I lost my temper a couple of times with him and I was like, you, like this at him, he stood there and just looked at me. No fear. Zero. God damn, I respected that man. I respected that. I respect that now today as well. You know what? I do. I'll respect you more if you stand up to me than walk away from me. But so Jack was my introduction into recovery, and I'll be honest with you. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, that's AA. I went to Narcotics Anonymous, which is NA, and I bounced back and forth. Jack would take me to either one of the meetings, and I was trying to stay employed while doing this, but it's hard to do that, So I was unemployable, and I ended up being unemployable. By the time I bottomed out, and they took me to dry out. I didn't go into a recovery house to dry out. I almost wish that I had, but I didn't. I had a very, 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 actually, she wasn't a dear friend of mine at that time. She was afterwards, but she was a dear friend of my mom. So she had a cottage and she was in recovery and she was a drug addict. And I was literally kidnapped. I was kidnapped. I was whipped up, kidnapped, put in a truck, bound. And I say bound, I mean my hands and legs were bound. And I was taken just up north of Algonquin Park to a cottage, and that's where I sat for 7 days and dried out. And yes, I puked, I pissed, I shit, I threw up, I fucking did it all. I threatened every single one of those people, including the 2 women. I threatened all 5 of them with their lives. I was going to kill them, and at the time I meant it. I meant every fucking word of it. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to break these bonds and I'm going to fucking kill you. And I meant it. It took 7 days, 5 days, actually after 4 days, the system was fairly clean. The 5th day, I could get some liquids back into me. And after the 7th day, I could actually get a little bit of food, a little bit of bread, a muffin and some shit like that. And after the 10th day, they could trust me. And I was moving around, I was functioning, I was showering, cleaning, whatever like that. And they brought me back down. And from there, I was crammed into AA meetings and NA meetings. And it was every single day. I'd go to a meeting in the mid-morning. I'd catch a mid-afternoon meeting. And then I'd catch a meeting at night. 3 a day for the first 90 days. And that's and it didn't matter whether it was AA or NA. Now, farther down the line, even though I was I'm an alcoholic, but I'm a drug addict, but you would think the drug addict would be the more hardcore, and it kind of is. But I kind of related a little better and found my comfort level, per se, with the Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was fine. That was fine. I qualified as an alcoholic as well, so it didn't make any difference. But I did. So I started to ease my way out of the NA program area, and I just focused on the AA program. And I did that for 3 meetings a day for the first 90 days. And then you get your 1 month chip, your 3 month, your 90-day chip, then your 6 month chip, then you get your 1 year medallion. And I'll be honest with you, for the first few years of my recovery, again, I'm fairly unemployable. I'm picking up little pieces of work here and there and shit like that, but I'm not working. And it's here, right? The old tape is still there. The old monster is still in there, but I don't have the drugs or the alcohol to subdue the monster now. So everything is raw. I'm raw, and I'm hurt, and I'm hurting, and I'm lashing out. Maybe not physically, more verbally and mentally, but I'm lashing out, and that went on for a while. So again, I was unemployable. Not a lot of guys wanted to be around me, But the very first meeting, I walked into an AA meeting. It was in Erin Mills in Mississauga, and it was in the bottom of a church. And we walked into the church, and Jack would be behind me at all times, so I couldn't get out. And I walked into the meeting, and at every meeting, at the door there's a greeter. A couple of volunteers, they greet. And this guy's name was Bill D, another old timer. And at that time in 1993, I was 23 years old. I was very young. Back then, alcoholics didn't bottom out. Like the newcomers, new people coming into AA, they were in their late 30s and early 40s. I came in at 23. And he took one look at Jack, and he said, Bill took one look at Jack, took one look at me, and he goes, "God damn it, boy." He says, how old are you? And I said, "I'm 23. And he goes, 23? He goes, "Holy fuck, you can't be an alcoholic at 23. He says, "I used to drink a 40-ouncer a day." And I didn't even bat an eye. And Jack fell to the floor laughing his ass off. I didn't even bat and I didn't even hesitate. He goes, I used to drink a 40-ouncer a day. And I looked right in the eye. I said, "Holy fuck, old man, it took you all day to drink a 40? And Jack fell to pieces. I didn't know what was so funny. And I just walked right on by him. And Bill stood there with a blank look on his face. Jack walked by him going, "Be careful what you say there, Bill. Be careful what you say." And that was my first meeting into Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was actually kind of funny. But yeah, it's like, took you all day to drink a 40? Fuck, man. I was well through the first 40 before night came. Believe me. Just for today, Motobomb. You got it. I hear you, Dean. Now, I'm not going to bore you with having to go through all the steps of recovery, but I am going to tell you this. You cannot get well at all. You cannot. It cannot be done as a drug addict or a recovering drug addict or a recovering alcoholic. You cannot get well unless you do certain things. Reflection. You need to go back and look at why. What is it that made you drink or narcate or whatever? What made you do that? What is it about you, the turmoil, the whatever, that did that? And there are everybody's probably heard them. They're the 12 steps. There's the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. There's the 12 steps of CA, which is Cocaine Anonymous. There's the 12 steps of OA, Overeaters Anonymous. There's SA, Sex Anonymous. It's the same 12 steps that came out of AA. AA is the original start, and everything else branched off of Alcoholics Anonymous. But you can't do that. Now, the first couple steps were you had to admit that you had a problem and that your life had become unmanageable and that you needed help. I had done that. I was there, right? And then as you go along, you have to start reflecting. Well, I'm still an animal. Like I said, those tapes that are in there, that old way of thinking, and those tapes are still there. What do we have to do? Well, now we have to start rewriting those tapes. And the best way I can describe that to you is I had some very good people through some a little bit of spirituality, some 12 steps, a lot of love, and a lot of patience. They took me like an old house. You cannot build a new house on a shitty foundation. What do? They got to tear you down. And that's what they do. And that's what I had to do. They didn't do it. I had to participate in it. I had to tear myself down. Now I'm reinventing myself. I had to tear myself down to the foundation of who I was as a man, as a person, not just a man, but as a person, as a human being. And then once you get down to the bare, raw, very raw foundation, then and only then can you start building the new house. And for me, it took 5 years of resistance. 5 years resisting, not wanting to do this step or that step or make my amends or do this or admit that, or let me fucking tell you, it took me 5 years. And for 5 years, all I was sober, but I was still a maniac and an animal and an asshole. Nothing was going, nothing was working for me, nothing was right for me. Why? Because I wasn't doing what I had to do to make myself whole again. So what did we do? Eventually, enough had become enough. Another guy, his name was Cecil. We all call him Cease. He became my sponsor, and he became very hardcore and got me very involved in the 12 steps and what the meaning and the principles behind them. And this is how you need to live your life. This is not how you need to live your life. This is what you need to do if you want to live a life of existence that's peaceful and have any kind of peace and harmony and grace and love in your life. This is what you need to do. Here's the instructions, Brian. I'm giving them to you. They're right fucking here, son. All you got to do is reach out, pick them up, and do it. And I did. After 5 years of fucking resisting, almost going crazy, almost going batshit fucking nuts, blowing my fucking brains out, umpteen times almost reaching for that bottle or reaching for that pill or reaching for that powder. Never relapsed, which is very rare. Most people have at least one. I never did. And the reason, I'll be honest with you, one of the reasons I never relapsed was I did that out of fear. I feared myself more than I feared life itself. You know that? That's fucking bad. That's fucking bad. But it kept me sober and it kept me clean. So after 5 years, I started doing what I was supposed to do. We started building the house. Like I said, with some people with a little bit of spirituality, a little bit of love, a little bit of grace, and a little bit of patience. The house was starting to get built back up. There'd be the odd, I don't want it, and there'd be resistance, and there'd be this, and, doesn't matter what you are, there's always that God aspect, that God word, God, G-O-D, God, doesn't matter. And I'm not Catholic, I'm not a Christian, I'm not religious, I've never had a religious moment in my life. I've never baptized as a child. I don't have any form of God or anything in my life. To me, in my rage, God to me was dog spelt backwards, and you can take your dog and go for a fucking walk. That's what God was to me. Gone. I had to find. Did I have to find God? No, God wasn't lost. I was. But I did have to find a version or a spiritual version of something. anything that I could rely on. And I did. And that's what I don't ever talk about it. You guys don't ever hear me talk about God and religion and this and that. But you have heard me say that I am a bit of a spiritual man. And I don't have a God like Christ or a God, whatever, Jehovah. No. But I do have a belief, and I do have a faith. There's a difference between belief and faith, and I have both, right? So, and that's when things started happening for me as well. When I could open my mind to things like that, better things started happening for me. That monster inside never went away, but it was starting to soothe. That monster was starting to soothe. He wouldn't rear up as often. Why? Because I had some tools now to keep him at bay. That monster, I'm sober 31 years. I'm 54 years old. I'll be 55 this year, at the end of this year. That monster is still there. Let me tell you something. It never goes away. That monster is still there. It's how I deal with that monster. It's how I deal with that addict, or how I deal with that alcoholic. How I deal with it, and how I work myself in life to keep that monster at bay. And it involves some very simple steps and some very simple process, none of which I speak openly about on YouTube until today. But it's a daily process. I have to do it every single day in order for me to get through my day without picking up a drug or a drink. Simple as that. And I don't mean I have to get down on my knees and fucking pray to God. And I don't have, no. But I do have to do certain things. The monster never goes away. After 5 or 6 years, the monster started soothing. The quality of my life started getting better. And I was thinking, oh, this is wonderful. Look how good I'm doing. I'm not doing jack shit. All I'm doing is following some simple steps and a simple program. And I'm starting to open my mind and listen to some people. People that have been sober longer than me, and I couldn't figure out why these fuckers were all so happy. And they had great wives. They had wonderful children. They had great jobs. They had a cottage. They had some material things. Now, material things aren't all the end all be all in life, but it's nice to have some nice material things. These people all had that. How the fuck were you doing that? I had to fucking rob and steal and fucking take it by force if I wanted nice things. Or I was buying it, but it was through the proceeds of doing illegal shit. This guy, he works in a bank. He was a fucking drug addict and an alcoholic, but yet here he is handling $25 million accounts. Wow, that's trust. I'd like to be there one day. I'd like to have that kind of trust and that kind of responsibility. I'd like to be that type of person. I'd like to have some integrity. I'd like to have some trust one day. And that is start again. That's another step of reinventing. Now I'm going, okay, I'm starting to set goals. This is what I want to do. My sobriety is important. Do I want to stay sober? Yes. But while I'm doing that, I'm looking at, okay, now I'm going to start setting goals because this is where I want to be in life. I don't need $100 million in my own private island to be happy. I don't need that. Let's set a small goal. Okay, so my goal for today, and this is an example. My goal for today. Well, first of all, I'm gonna wake up this morning. I'm gonna go to work. I'm first and foremost. I'm not gonna have a drink or a drug. So those are goals, right? I'm gonna probably have a good day at work, and then I'm gonna go to a meeting, and then I would set goals, and then I'm gonna do something nice for somebody. Not even knowing what it was. When the opportunity presented itself, I would do something nice for somebody. And if that's as far as I could go for that day, that's as far as I went. And somehow or another, even in my eyes, doing something nice for somebody would be just something as simple as opening a fucking door for them. A man or a woman didn't matter, just open a door. Okay, I've done something nice. Whew. All right, let's try it again tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to not get drunk. We're not going to get fucking stoned. We're going to try to go to work. We're going to try to, try not to be, fired or smash into anything or drive or, get lost or blah, 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 blah. And maybe tomorrow, I'm going to say something nice to somebody, compliment somebody. And man, that's all it was. And it's baby steps, one after another, and then the steps, it stopped being baby steps. Over time they started to get bigger and bigger, and the steps started progressing, and my life started progressing. I became a trustworthy member of society. I did, at the beginning of my sobriety, I had a past that I had to clean up. I had warrants, I had run, and even in sobriety, and these people were telling me, Brian, eventually you're gonna have to clean this up. You can't run forever. Eventually you're gonna have to go deal with this, right? Well, I had no money. I had no money. Or what money I had, it was going towards a family now with 2 kids. So I had nothing. But I had eventually to clean this up, and I did. And what I had done is, at that time in Mississauga, and Mississauga for most of you is a city just outside of Toronto, and the Peel Police had started a program saying that if you bring your firearms, like this is for the illegals, if you bring your firearms in and you hand them in, and you will walk away, no questions asked. Well, my dad was a cop. There was other things. I took advantage of this program for 2 reasons. One, I was going to turn myself in and let them know that I had warrants. And 2, I didn't need these guns anymore. That was not part of my life anymore. So I walked into 11 Division, and I walked into the police station. I walked up. There was a staff sergeant standing at the front, at the desk. My father was with me. My dad identified himself as Officer blah blah blah, Metro Toronto. I said, my name is Brian Brown. There are 3 outstanding warrants for my arrest right now. I said, I have 3 firearms. I have 3 weapons in this. None of them are loaded. The ammunition is, the ammunition is separate. It's all separated. I'd like to hand them in, no questions asked. They respected that. They took that. Mind you, the serial numbers were gone anyway, so they couldn't, whatever. But those weapons were in. Then I was processed. They looked up what I was wanted for. Yes. I was then taken into custody, and then there was that was on a Friday night, at 11 o'clock on a Friday night. And there was at 11 o'clock for a reason, but it's too long to explain. But it was taken in at 11 o'clock on a Friday night, and then Monday morning I was taken into court, and it was determined what was going to be my, well, on the 3 warrants, I had a choice of X amount of dollars. Now, I had already, believe it, going back to the Friday night thing, when you turn yourself in, right, time served, and this is Canadian, so I don't know how it works in the U.S., but they count Friday, as long as it's before midnight, as 1 day. So at 11 o'clock Friday night, that counts as 1 day. So I'd already served 1 day. Saturday was 2 days, Sunday was 2 days, and Monday was 1. Right? So I've already got 6 days served by the time Monday morning came. And that was my dad that worked that out for me. The guns were gone, the warrants, whatnot. I was determined that, okay, I didn't have money to pay for any problems and this and that. I didn't have the money for the lawyer. I was given a choice. I could pay this. I'd already done 6 days time served. They were going to tack on X amount more time, or I could do a serious longer stretch and run them all concurrently and get it all off in one shot. And I opted for the long term, walk them all off, run them all 3, run them all off concurrently and and get them done. And I did. And that was thankfully, that was the last time that I was in prison. I had my freedoms and rights and taken away from me. That was the last time. I'm very proud to say that. I had served my time. I was released early, good behavior, and certain other circumstances, my grandfather was dying, and I was released early. You know, I don't know what you call it, sympathy, fuck, whatever. But I didn't end up. Usually, if you run 2/3 of your sentence, you get out on good terms, on good behavior anyway. I had run just almost. I hadn't quite run the 2/3. I knew I wasn't available. I wasn't qualifying for early release yet, but somehow or another, I got released. And again, I was released into my father's custody, and off I went. And that was the last time I was in jail, thankfully. And I'm very proud of that today. Have I had stints with the law since then? Yes. But have they been justified in my eyes and in my heart? You're goddamn right. And I stand behind them today. But no, I never had to go back to jail. What do I do today? Who am I today? Now, in my sobriety as well, I burned through my first wife, had 2 kids, had my second wife, had another kid, burned through that wife. That wife actually passed away. And then I met Darlene. Most everybody in here knows who Dar is. Fuck, you all know Dar better than you know me. I met Dar, and our life in the beginning was rough. I had an ex, and she had an ex, and we had kids, and I had kids, and she had, and we put it all together, and here we are 20 plus years later, and we are still going strong. A lot of what I have today is because of the life that I live today. There's the little bit of spirituality that I run through my life, and the things that were given freely to me by other people to learn from and grab hold of, and that I can apply to today, is the reason I am the man I am today. Is that monster still there? Yes. Does he still come out from time to time? Occasionally. But does he come out to the point where it's full blown come out and somebody's going to get fucking hurt? No. Does he come out to the point where it's full blown and I need to stick a needle in my arm or stick something up my nose? No. That monster has not come out. That monster is under control. It's there, but it's not. I now have the tools and the steps and the ability to apply those in my life to keep myself happy and content and sober. You know, I have those tools now, and because I have those tools today, you know, I've got a very good life. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I've got the greatest life in the world and everything's hunky dory. Everybody's got ups and downs. Dar and I had ups and downs for years. Exes, this, that, the life, my life, her life, fucking life. But that's what it is. You deal with it. You live with it. You move on. I have that saying, people, you learn, you adapt, you learn, you improvise, you adapt, and then you move on. And I live that. I fucking live that. Because if I don't, I'll become stagnant, sitting in the same pile of my own shit, and nothing for me will ever change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. These are stupid little cliches, but you don't know how many fucking times in my own head they've saved my life. Brian, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You need to make a change. Got it. Let's go. Let's make that change. So, is my life the greatest life? To me, it is. Maybe to some other people it isn't, and that's fine. It's not my concern. I am not out there today worried that you think I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not handsome enough. I'm not the best truck driver. I'm not the best businessman. I'm not the best husband, the best father. I don't give a rat's ass what anybody thinks. I don't answer to anybody. I answer to myself and my family. Period. And a little bit of spiritualness. That is who I answer to. I don't care if you don't think I'm the best anymore. That doesn't bother me anymore. I don't have to strive to be the best in everything in the fucking world around me. Am I still competitive? Absolutely. Do I still enjoy a good, hey, let's fucking go, let's go. All right, you want to go? Here, hold my Dr. Pepper. Let's fucking go. Do I enjoy that? Absolutely. But now it's not because I want to pound you into the dirt and embarrass you or hurt you or anything like that. It's because it's just a little bit of competition. It's a little bit of fun, and we're going to enjoy ourselves. That is where I am today. I would not trade my worst day today for my best day then. I want you to think about that. If anything that I've said to you, if you're having a problem, you're struggling, you've got anything that I've talked about, this is where I am today. This is what has been available to me, and this is what has happened to me. I would not trade my worst day today, excuse me, for my best day back then. And that's my life today. That is my life. Sorry it took a little longer than an hour, or an hour and 15 minutes, but that's where I am today. Do I struggle? Yeah. The last couple of weeks, have I been struggling? Yeah. Some of you know that when you don't see me on YouTube, I'm busy. I've got shit in my life going on, and YouTube takes a back seat. Everything else takes a back seat to my family and what's going on in my life. So if you don't see me on YouTube, and you don't see me in all the chats, and you don't see when you do see me there, then you know what? Hey, I've taken care of business, and I'm back on YouTube, and I'm back to play and have fun and fuck around just like everybody else. But when it's time to work, and it's time to take care of business, and it's time to do things, I have to do that. YouTube, other things, leisurely things, that all takes a back seat to my spirituality, to my life, to my wife, to my children. That's nothing. None of that got me. YouTube didn't get me anything. YouTube hasn't given me anything. It's got me some great friends. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't mean like that. But it has not enhanced my life or given me the ability to be a better person or to live a good life, or that comes from within. That comes from my family. That comes from my spiritual life. That comes from having good people around me. That is what I am today, and that's just all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm living today. I live. You hear this, and it's an irritating cliche, some people say, but it's one day at a time. One day at a time. I live every day as if it's my last, because baby, you know what? One day you're going to be right. It's going to be your fucking last. So with that, guys, you know what? That's kind of where I'm at. And I hope, Sterling, my friend, I hope this is what you were looking for. Recovery and reinvention. The recovery was the coming in, and the reinvention was how many times in my life, in my sobriety, in 31 years of sobriety, how many times did I have to reinvent myself to be here, to be what you see right here? I've had to reinvent myself. I can't count. I'd like to say 20 times, 30 times. Fuck, I don't know. The only one that knows is the big spirit in the sky and some other people that were there with me. But other than that, Moto Bomb, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Good to see you, Shannon. Thank you. Praise God. Absolutely. I'd like to sit here and say, oh, I want to thank you. And hey, I'm just doing what I was asked to do, and I'm just sharing it. I'm glad I did it. I've been meaning to do this for a while, because in my eyes, I don't have to help. I don't have to save the world. I don't have to save, 25 people from their drug addiction and their alcoholism. I don't have to save anybody. The word save, I don't have to save. My responsibility in life now, aside from being a good man to my wife and a good father to my children and my family, my job in life is to help one person. If I've done this tonight, doing this little talk and everything I've done tonight, if it helps one person, then I've done my job. I don't have to save 20. I don't have to save 50. I don't have to save 100. All I got to do is help. I'm not saving. Help one person. So if all I've done is help one person, then you know what, man? I've done my job. I've done my job. I've done what I've been put here to do today. Right now, for this hour and 19 minutes, this is what I've been meant to do. I've done it. If I've helped one person. So, you know what? Hey, Red Lady, good to see you. Thank you, channel member. Fix the title, please. I know Dar's going to fix that for me. I already saw him. Sorry about the title. Whatever. Harold cried, not you. That's cool. So yeah, Moto, you know what the hell I'm talking about here. You guys, Mr. B's, thank you. You know, I wasn't following the chat at all, but I did see the names, and most of you stayed in here, and I appreciate that. Thanks for hanging out. I'm gonna finish this cigar, and I'm gonna go have a couple of fucking butter tarts. And it's now 6:30 for me, 6:30 p.m. I gotta wind this down. I gotta get ready for work. I gotta get up at 1:30 tomorrow morning. So I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate everybody that was here tonight. And at the end of the day, if you are, I don't know if you are, but if you are struggling with any of this, my email is there. Send me an email. I can't say that I can help you, but I probably know somebody who can. If I can't help you, I probably know somebody who can. Yeah, 2-4, look at this. I got a dozen of them, baby. Homemade. Mother-in-law sent them home with me. Sorry, couldn't help myself. 2-4 knows what butter tarts are. It's 6:30 in Alberta. No, it's 4:30 in Alberta, but I'm in Ontario. I'm in Ontario. Ours in Alberta. 2-4. You can say it, dude. Go ahead and say it. I accept it. Sterling, I do appreciate you putting this to me, and of course butterscotch. Caramel butterscotch. And sort of forcing my hand. Thank you. Ontario, Canada, eh? Yeah, exactly, eh? We're going down to Timmy's to get ourselves that double, eh? And we're gonna go over and watch a fight, and then a hockey game's gonna break out. You guys are awesome, man. You guys are awesome. Again, so thanks for everybody. I'm gonna end this, and we're gonna finish smoking this, have a couple of tarts, and I'm gonna kill this. So, anybody that's struggling, send me an email. If I can't help you, I probably know somebody who can, or I can at least direct you in the right send you in the right direction. Putty Cat, thanks for hanging. Who else did we have in here? There was a bunch of people that Mr. B's, thank you. There's a bunch of people that did come. Nick, thanks. Good to see you. There's a bunch of people, sorry, that were coming in while I was talking that I didn't get to acknowledge. So if you're here and I did not get to acknowledge you, I feel I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. Okay. With that, guys, I'm out of here. You guys, thank you. Talk to you later. See you down the road.